Don't underestimate how well your herbicide can work when you're putting it on with a very coarse or even an ultra-coarse spray quality. Hi, I'm David Johnson, FMC's Northern Technical Extension Specialist and also our spray application specialist. Applying herbicides, or any agrochemical for that matter, should always be a balance between efficacy and off-target movement. Why apply your chemical with a cloud of fine droplets and a high risk of off-target movement if it works perfectly well without that risk? Fine droplets are those that don't reach the ground under their own momentum. When you've got your boom at 1 metre spray height, that happens to be droplets up to 200 microns in size. They're moving horizontally, the wind has got control of them, and you're relying on that wind to get them to ground or to dilute them into the atmosphere. 3 different nozzles set up here. They're all yellow O2s, which means at a ½ metre spacing, putting them on at 20 kilometres an hour and 4 bar pressure, they're going to be punching out 55 litres per hectare. The first set are the AIXRs. At 4 bar pressure, these are categorised as medium spray qualities. That means of our 55 litres a hectare, 20 to 40% of that spray volume is at risk of moving over the fence. That's somewhere between 11 and 22 litres per hectare. The nozzles in the middle are hardy injet nozzles. At 4 bar, these are categorised as very coarse. That means these are nozzles we could consider to putting out a mixture containing 2,4-D. It's a big improvement over medium because now only between 3.3 and 6.6 litres of our 55 litres a hectare is at risk of moving sideways before it hits the ground. If we were spraying a 625 amine at 800 mils per hectare, that means we can be punching out enough 2,4-D to wreck up to 85 hectares of cotton, and yet we're still following the label with a very coarse spray quality. These guys are TTI O2s. They're classed as ultra-coarse. That means we've dropped our fines down to about 3% from this particular boom height, which means of our 55 litres, we're only putting at risk 1.6 litres a hectare. Right from the start, we're a lot better off from an efficacy perspective because we're getting 53.4 litres per hectare to ground directly from this nozzle. You've also got the advantage of a more vertical trajectory, so less droplets moving horizontally, which means less droplets captured by stubble. It means a shorter flight path to ground, which means less evaporation on the way down, and it means longer droplet survival on the weed, which gives the herbicide a longer chance to penetrate that leaf cuticle. The spray qualities generated by these nozzles I've just been talking about were all determined by the nozzle manufacturers when spraying only water, and these are what is captured in the GRDC nozzle guide. But watch this, I'm using 0.2% wetter here to simulate adding 1 litre of glyphosate 450 to the tank. This tank mix has just turned this very coarse nozzle into this, right on the border of medium coarse. So if you were following the 2,4-D label targeting a very coarse, you would be inadvertently spraying near medium, making some 10 litres per hectare of fines and putting some 140 hectares of nearby cotton at risk. Not all tank mixes have this effect on nozzles, and the effect is different for different nozzles. But as a rule of thumb, if suspension concentrates are in the tank mix, the effect is likely to be minimal. But if SLs, like most glyphosates, are the main component, or wetters, then the effect is likely to be obvious. This is because these formulations affect the way the spray fan breaks up into droplets as it comes out of the nozzle orifice. We invested a lot of resources at the Gatton Wind Tunnel to see what a real tank mix makes the GRDC chart look like. By running a tank mixture of 3.8% Roundup Ultramax and 1.6% of Amicide Advanced 700 in 2% liase through every O2, O25 and O3 nozzle type we could get hold of that's rated as very coarse or coarser when being used within their optimum operating pressure range and limited by speeds between 16 and 22 kilometres per hour. All of this information is captured in the FMC On Coarse DRA nozzle chart. So how can you address this tank mix effect? Well, for a start, you could use On Coarse DRA as your wetter. On Coarse is formulated around the active ingredient guar, which is a thickening agent. Guar works to counteract the effects that surfactants have at the nozzle orifice, which affects the way that spray fan breaks up. On Coarse now turns this near medium spray quality back into very coarse. 10 litres a hectare at risk down to 4.6 litres a hectare without changing anything else. It moves the TDI from 4.2 litres per hectare at risk down to 1.7 litres a hectare, getting it back to an extremely coarse spray quality. And it even improves the AIXR from medium to very coarse. Our test tank mixture now comes with a lot more options to spray very coarse in both the low pressure air induction section and a lot more in the high pressure air induction section, even a few ultra coarse options. On Coarse's other advantage, and it's an important one, is that it acts as a shock absorber when the droplet impacts the leaf. That means larger droplets have a higher chance of staying on a leaf they strike rather than bouncing off to the ground. In other words, it is a very valuable adjuvant when spraying with fewer fines because it will assist greatly in retaining larger droplets on the target leaves. Thanks for watching. Follow the link below to part 2 of spraying herbicides effectively with droplets under your control.